can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this. I am new to this whole genre. I really want to show my gratitude to you both.
I love working with anyone who's going to help other couples because there's not enough of us doing it.
You're going to see in this podcast when you're interviewing Meygan and I, we're both kind of like, okay, can you wrap it up?
I'm laughing right now because I just looked into Casey's beard and he ate scrambled eggs and there's literally egg parcels and bits. Oh my gosh.
Just introduce who you both are and how Marriage 365 began.
Okay, so we're Casey and Meygan, married 21 years. We have 2 teenagers, a really cute dog that we love a lot too.
Actually, we have same age as your kids, Ben.
Yeah, that's crazy.
13 and 13.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So we were having sex at the same time, must have been.
Yeah.
Procreating at the same time. And, you know, we, just like so many people, we met, we fell in love, and we thought, this is amazing. Let's do this forever. And then we got married. And the long short of it is that by year 3, we were heading towards divorce. We realized quickly that we had no tools. We had a lot of childhood baggage, like Casey mentioned. We're both very stubborn, very opinionated people. And I think we were just really selfish. We had these expectations, like you should meet my expectations. Casey felt like I should meet his. Babe, you have to make me happy.
Keep going.
Hold on.
Did you just fart?
I know. I realized he did not. It's our dog. Sorry. He was scratching the whole time. And I knew it was going to distract Casey. But I'll wait till you scoot your chair.
Okay.
That's okay.
Good to go.
There you go.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or just leave it in there. Whatever. No. Yeah.
Awesome.
I feel so comfortable with you, Ben.
We're picking food out of beards and we're farting on, camera. So it is what it is. That's what you get with us. But really, in a nutshell, we had a lot of really high and unrealistic expectations of one another. And so when he didn't make me happy, I lashed out. When I didn't make him happy, he lashed out. And it got pretty ugly. So we were able to turn our marriage around. And between both sets of our parents, there's 12 marriages. 12.
Holy cow.
So the grass is not greener where our parents are. They keep thinking they're marrying the wrong person, right?
Well, my mom's on her 6th marriage.
Yeah.
And that's where, I do remember having conversations around like at her 5th one or 4th one. I was like, really? And she's like, I just don't know how to pick them. I'm like, maybe you should stop picking. Like,
yeah.
But
yeah. So we just came from so much, divorce, affairs, all that stuff. It all really just, that 3rd-year marriage was really the low point. But when we were able to turn our marriage around, what we realized was there is a lack of tools, and we did not have tools. There is a lack of education on how to make relationships work. And we really became problem solvers for our own marriage. Like, there's got to be a fix to this. We're both fixers. I mean, me more than Casey is. I'm like, there's got to be like a solution to this. And
so what year was this, you think? Like what year-ish?
We got married in 2003.
Yeah. So
2006, we destroyed our marriage.
Yeah. And then in 2008, we lost everything financially.
The economy tanked. We tanked with it.
We had to move in with Megan's mom.
That was not fun.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad financial.
And we had a 6-month-old at the time. And so, I mean, there was a lot that happened in a season where our life was reduced to nothing, quite literally, financially, friend-wise, everything. Pride and ego was absolutely obliterated. And that actually, out of that season of loss, simplicity, it almost forced us to start looking at the hard facts of our relationship and the debt that we had accumulated. So, Ben, if there's anything that could go wrong in our relationship, it happened to us. We struggled with infertility. So we came out of that season. We were in $250,000 worth of debt, student loans, consumer. bought a house that we should have never bought as a rental property, and in a declining market. So we got no extra money, and now we're obviously like having to fix a garage door. Like, it just was not smart for us. So we made all of these mistakes, and then there was a season where we were forced to deal with that. And I think out of that season began the building blocks for us to start rebuilding our relationship. And I think today, if I could quickly fast forward, we have an avatar of poor old Casey and Meygan struggling, feeling vulnerable, but kind of like, as you talked about, Ben, faith was an important part of our lives, but we were in a very unhealthy church situation where we didn't feel safe enough to raise our hands and say, I'm struggling. Because if we did, we would be, removed from places of leadership, or, I was a volunteer youth pastor. So they'd ask me to step down.
Wow. So
we were stuck.
Yeah.
And then what's worse is that, there was a lot of Christian platitudes that were thrown at us. Like, hey, just pray about it, or put Jesus at the center of your marriage. We needed tools.
Yeah.
We needed not just to be told what to do, but how to do it. So I kind of went all over the place on that one, but
yeah. And so let's go on the tools. So how did you decide on the specific tools? Like, was it courses? Was it like different content? Like, what were the tools that you decided to go to?
Okay, I'm going to start, but I'm so sorry. I drank a cold smoothie and it irritated my throat.
You better leave that in.
Actually, I've been drinking beer. No, okay. Okay, here we go.
You guys are awesome.
You get the real deal with us, Ben.
That is awesome.
Okay, so how Marriage 365 started was a Facebook page. And
Oh,
we thought,
okay.
we have so many amazing things to share with the world. Let's see if people actually want them and like them. And one follower turned to, 500,000. And it was like, okay, well, let's start a blog, because that's what everyone was doing back then. Let's do that. Oh, wow, we're getting some good blog traffic. Let's write an ebook. And really what made us take off and we were doing it as a side hobby, right? Kind of like when you start a company and you're like, well, let's just see if there's actually like places for this.
Sure.
We started to see the momentum, and we started to be able to realize, okay, we could make money off of this. This had become a business for us. We started doing something called like a monthly webinar, where we would have a specific topic, whether it was like sex, communication, affair recovery, and people would pay $10, and we'd have a whole hour presentation we do online. And then it would come with something called like connecting questions, where we would then make sure, hey, we just talked about all this. We taught you some tools and techniques, but now we want you to continue the conversation at home. And we would have hundreds of people show up.
Wow.
I know. And we're like, okay, we're on to something here. So that's actually how it started. And we started being able to create enough revenue for us to then jump to doing it full time.
Was
Back
that
in 2015? We did
2015?
2015, Casey and I, we went all in on this, just us two. Yep.
Wow.
And I will say that there was an entrepreneurial bent that was already built within Meygan and I. Meygan had her own party planning business.
Yeah,
which was super successful. I was officiating weddings as kind of a side hustle to actually pay off our debt. That was one of the things that was really, really helpful for us. And I think even as if I was officiating weddings, I get a chance to meet couples and ask them like, hey, so tell me more about like, what kind of tools and resources are you using for your marriage? And I all I got was this. I mean, dating was pretty rad. So I don't think anything's going to change when we get married, Casey. I'm like,
oh,
yeah.
Or you know what?
We love each other so much. We'll be fine.
We'll be fine.
We'll be fine.
It was all hope as a strategy, which
do you think, so this is just me thinking, like I always think about this stuff.
Watch out.
I know, right? I know. Do you think like there is, and I don't want to pinpoint like Disney or anything, but there's a fairy tale aspect to marriage that I think a lot of people fall into, kind of like business ownership. It's very similar. Like I keep going here, but like there's a myth And there's this almost mystique of, oh, everything is going to be better once you start your business. Get out of the 9 to 5. It's going to be great. You'll have more time. And then with marriage, oh, you'll love and happily ever after.
Yeah.
Do you think like, do you put any do you think there's an actual thing that people fall into and what that trap is? Is it the Disney effect?
Yeah, when you start to see the influence that Hollywood has, so
Hollywood.
1920s, 1930s, everything started to shift in regards to relationships, how people date, expectations of marriage. Before then, it was pretty much the same for two centuries. So it is, or two centuries, thousands of centuries, I should say. But I think that's, and then of course now with social media, it's even worse. Shows like The Bachelor, they all play into it. And yes, absolutely Disney, rom-coms too, Hallmark Channel, they're all guilty of it. And I think that let's just say this, there's nothing wrong with wanting an amazing, fulfilling, happily ever after.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for it.
I was going to say, like my wife and I, we love the Hallmark Channel. We can't lie.
Like I love a good ending to a movie where I'm like, oh, pretty package. They all get together. Like, so I grew up watching I Love Lucy, for example. And that was actually one of the first shows that showed conflict. Well, and interracial marriage, by the way.
Yeah,
That's the first couple. They were
Yep.
pioneers in that. They always fought. Something was always wrong in the episode. But what happened after the 30 minutes was done?
Yeah, the problems were solved.
I love you. Problems were solved, right? I think that there's a lack of education in general. And I think that it's the parents' responsibility to model that and educate the children that are one day going to grow up and get married and be in relationships.
Yeah. And I would say that the tools, what it's required, the grit to maintain a long lasting, satisfying marriage, those things are not being emulated in any form of media. So social media shows happy pictures, snapshots of vacations, but we don't see the in-between. Rom-coms, like, they walk through the front door, slam up against the wall, and all of a sudden they're having intercourse, and then they're done.
And they orgasm at the same time.
And they orgasm at the same time after 30 seconds of rubbing up against each other.
Play.
No,
what is going on?
Yes.
Ladies,
the clitoris has not been paid attention to here, clearly. But here's the thing: is like,
no cleanup scene.
No cleanup scene.
Oh yeah, the cleanup. Oh,
oh boy, yeah,
because that's not romantic.
We just
right.
And the tiptoe when the kids are asleep.
Yeah, exactly.
So here's the thing: is we almost unconsciously have some sense of bias towards how relationships should be dealt with. We don't have conflict resolution skills. We don't see the weekly marriage business meeting, which we're going to get into because I want to talk about that.
Yep.
That tactical level of how do we block and tackle the week coming up for us? How do we plan for what are couples' goals look like? What we see instead is just kind of this trite language that goes back and forth and everything's wrapped up in the hour and a half, Hallmark movie. So where in culture is anybody talking about how to actually do marriage in a healthy way? So then we have unrealistic expectations over how to do romantic relationships. Yeah,
I agree. It's funny because my wife and I, we've had our business, like I said, for 13, almost 14 years now. And it's in the real estate industry and there's ups and downs, we ride the wave, but this time of year, every year is typically slow. Every year, this time of year, Angie, my wife and I, we just get a little bit more testy with each other. And it's every single year. And it's like a calendar. You could set a clock to, it's crazy. What are some things that we could do as small business owners if we foresee this, if we have those waves where things are low in the business? What are some things that you guys do or some things that you could tell our listeners to do to try to prevent that?
We both looked at each other and smiled. This was a tough year for us, Ben, to be honest. So this is something absolutely relevant to us.
Well, imagine we were an online company and we were poo-pooed for the beginning, like online marriage stuff. I remember all the therapists would judge us. All of the big name authors, like, how dare you be online? Like, this is marriage. You guys need to be in person. And we're like, you guys, but now we knew we've always been innovators. So we're like, that's where the world's going. Well, COVID really helped us.
Yeah.
In a way where we were the only online resource. We were already set up for everything online. And so our business tripled within 6 months. And so we've been riding that wave of just busy,
Whoa.
busy, 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 busy. Oh, we went from 4 staff members to 20. Oh, it was
Holy
insane.
shit, you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
We went from reaching about like 500,000 people on a good week to like in the millions. But this year has completely been this slow decline. And it's been really hard. So I would say this. I don't know.
Have we dealt with this in our own marriage?
We absolutely have. Like we were just saying this last year. One advice that I would give someone that was listening, like you and your wife, where you're like, wow, I know that there's lulls in our business or there's stressful seasons, like for taxes. Like there's a lot of times we work with people who do like CPAs or accounting, and they know that there's these lulls and these peaks, is to come prepared to that season. Don't be reactionary, be proactive, especially if you're aware of it. Because we weren't aware that this was going to happen. But after a couple months and nothing was really changing, we were like, okay, like now we need to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to respond. The other thing I would say is give each other grace. You know, like every business has their peaks and their valleys. Not one business has just been all amazing the whole time. You hear these stories and you're like, that's a bunch of BS. We all know it as business owners. Every single person has struggled in their business. And so give each other grace. And I would wake up some days and I'd say, hey, just want you to know, babe, like I'm feeling anxious and stressed about work. And I just want you to know where I'm at. And it's not an excuse to be short with you. It's not an excuse to be, but I want you to know where I'm at. And Casey would do the same. And so being aware, like I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm frustrated, I'm bored, I'm nervous. Are we going to make it through? Just saying where you're at and being blunt about it in a loving way, I think is a great start for couples.
I love that. How do you deal with couples who feel that they are too far apart? Have you ever dealt with that? Like we are beyond help, guys. I don't know why I'm talking to you. It's over. How do you deal with those couples?
The number one thing I would start off by saying is that most marriage problems are fixable. Very rarely do we see a couple where like they're way too far past. Now, I want to say there are times when that has happened and we deal with that. But I would say that's the most in the majority of couples we work with where there wasn't this one big thing like an affair or, you know, you just went and spent, you know, $250,000 without asking me. Like it's usually this slow and steady drift apart autopilot.
Yeah. I'm still chewing on that question because I think that you don't typically have two people that come to us saying, hey, we're super far apart. What do we do next? You usually only have one person. And there's this nautical law called the 1 in 60 that a lot of couples can find themselves in. And that the law is that for every 1 degree off that you are on your bearing and every 60 miles you go forward, you're actually 1 mile off of your target. And so what happens is people kind of kick their marriage that 1 or 2 degrees off. And when they first start, and I want to say it's the lack of intentionality. They get married, they move into autopilot. They're not intentional about date nights, communication, getting tools, resources. For every 60 miles they go down the road or 60 days, they're like 1 mile off that target. Now, that doesn't feel painful the first week, second week, third week.
Couple months.
And it's very insidious that couples can find themselves, they move in that 1 degree, but then the kids, the career, the business, they keep going month after month, year after year. And then the kids are now older. And what we're seeing statistically is the number, it's slowly overtaken the first 7 years, but the number second to, sorry, wow, that was a mouthful. The number two
time to get divorced.
Divorce is like the 20-year mark when the kids are ready to exit the home. They have been 1 degree off. 20 years later, they're so far apart they do not even see each other, and that's where they come to us. Is we've made their kids the priority. We've made the business priority. And it really is sad to think, because we work with a very successful business owners who have found great success in the marketplace, and they've lost their family. And now they're like, Casey, I will pay
Anything.
whatever it costs.
Yeah.
And sometimes at a certain point, it's gone far too long that it's not.
And it's crazy
Can't come
because at the time or in the moment when they're building their business and they're being successful, they justify it too. They justify it's just part of it, Ben. It's part of it, man. It's a sacrifice I have to make. I want to do this, and I'll reconnect with my family later when I'm retired.
Well,
and I'm providing them a nice family.
I was going to say,
they're going to private school, and you've got the Mercedes in the driveway. Babe, what's to complain about?
we live in a culture where we celebrate hard work and good work ethic, which is incredible. I'm all for hard work.
Yep.
The problem is what are you willing to sacrifice? And there was a moment when sometimes we work with professional athletes, and there was a man who had everything in the world and then some, right? His contract was over $100 million.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And he said, it's not worth it because I'm losing my family. And Casey and I got off that call, and I remember going, see, the world wants the money, the stuff, the thing. And he sees it. This man sees it. He's in the highest part of his career he'll ever be. And he's like, this is horrible because all I want is my wife and my kids. And I think that I tell that story only every once in a while to say it's a reminder that your career is a phenomenal thing, but it can only take you so far. Your family on your deathbed, you're not going to say, well, I wish I worked more.
Right.
I mean, no one ever says it. What do they say? I wish I spent more time with the people I loved.
Well, that's funny because Ben, when eventually you die.
Yeah.
On your tombstone, there will be 2 dates, and it never says the most amazing podcaster and home builder in the Pacific Northwest.
I mean, you could put it on your tombstone. Yeah,
No,
but it's not going to say
you know what
that.
it's going to say? A loving father,
Yeah.
a devoted husband.
Mm-hmm.
And it has everything to do with us being human beings and not human doings.
I love that. I love that. How does that work? How am I able to, what's my purpose personally compared to what the purpose of the marriage is? And then add a business on top of that, and then add children on top of that. So I guess my question to you both, and Casey, we can start with you, or Meygan, doesn't matter, but like, how do you balance your personal purpose with the marriage purpose and the business purpose?
So let's talk about intention. Intention is our ability to set purpose and direction for our lives. And we pull on the 7 habits of highly effective people all the time, even in the context of marriage. When we were first married, we were very reactive to everything. Like just kind of letting every single day happen, and we were just being responsive in the moment. There was a key time where we started to look at the way that businesses were being ran and thought, why couldn't we do that in our marriage? So Meygan said, we had a staff of 20. Could you imagine no matter how many staff you have, can you imagine if you just told your employees, hey, you know what, today, just go do something great. And you know what, tomorrow, be awesome. Just get out there and do whatever you feel, is in the moment.
And then they'd ask you questions like, well, do you have a budget, a due date, a time?
No, we're just go out there and make things happen, guys.
Figure it out.
So
no, we all know that that's not how businesses are run.
we have a weekly leadership team where we're looking at KPIs, what's coming up this week, what are some of our goals, what are our targets, where do we want to be in 6 months, what are our quarterly numbers. And I was like, we're so intentional, we're so proactive when it comes to businesses. So, I mean, every business owner is going to relate to this. We come to our business with a plan in place, and we operate off of that plan. But yet when we walk through the front door of our homes, we just kind of let all chaos reign. So Meygan and I came up with the weekly marriage business meeting, which gives us clear vision into the week ahead that allows us to look at like what's going on in our calendars. When is our time to connect? We schedule sex because it's important to us. And we even look at like, hey, I need some time to myself, whether that's surfing, golfing, spa time, getting a massage. Like, what is the self-care aspect so that I come back to you fully restored and, full of energy? I don't know if you have any thoughts to the weekly marriage business meeting, but
yeah, it's a time for us to get aligned, looking into the future week ahead of us. And when you were asking, what's the purpose and how do you navigate and find that balance? All relationships require time.
Mm-hmm.
Every single relationship. If you think about it, your employees, your kids, you can't have a relationship if there's no time spent on it. And so having structure says, okay, I'm going to give you an hour here on Saturday night for our date night. And then, you know what, we're going to take a walk on Tuesday and Thursday night after the kids go to bed or whatever. If your kids are older, like ours are teenagers, you can leave them home. Right. And like, hey, we're going to go to get coffee in the morning while they're at school. Then you're a business owner. You typically a lot more flexibility than if you worked from a 9 to 5 and you had to be answering to people. And that's my whole thing is we get to make our own schedule. We're the boss.
It's true.
It's okay to say, let's take Friday morning off and let's go on a coffee date. I know we could wake up and hustle and bustle. We can do that. We're great at that. But our marriage requires time. And so first I would say the cups are actually, you can't pour from an empty cup. So I think as Americans, we're the worst at self-care. I think we need to be really good at self-care. So that's one cup, right? Can't pour from an empty cup because you're not going to be a great boss if you're depleted.
And I say that all the time. It's like, I love the small business owners. I love entrepreneurs, but the problem with them, what they have is they put themselves last.
Correct.
All
and
the time.
even on the payroll, right?
Yeah.
You're last.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So everybody else gets the best of you, and then you're giving, you're giving yourself the leftovers. So you can't pour from an empty cup. There's 1,000,001 self-care ideas. We have resources at Marriage365. Google it. Self-care ideas. This doesn't mean you take off a full day of work. I think this is the misconception about self-care. You can find it in even 10 minutes a day here and there. Also, I would add to that, getting good sleep is a form of self-care. So turn off that phone, get a good night's sleep. The next thing I would say is definitely making sure that you are prioritizing your spouse in the week ahead and not being reactionary, like Casey said. So that whole purpose of the weekly marriage business meeting is to say, okay, let's look at our calendars. When can we spend time together? One of the CEOs and founders of Netflix, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but every Tuesday he has had a date with his wife at 5:00. He turns off all work. He says if someone follows him to the parking lot, he will stop and say, I'm so sorry. I would love to talk to you about this. Let's schedule a time. This is my date with my wife.
That's awesome.
They've been happily married for almost 30 years. And he said, it is a non-negotiable because I am a better founder, CEO. And now he owns a bunch of other businesses too, because my home life is in order. And when that's in order, I can come to work and I can think more clearly. And I think that right there is very telling. So first self-care, then marriage, then work. Because here's the thing, everyone listening, we all work. We're all hard workers. We all have great work ethic. That's not our problem. that really isn't that's my thing. I'm like, you can't tell me, well, Meygan, go work harder. I'm like, I got the opposite problem. I'm like a workaholic. I wear 45 hats at my job. I'm good at that part. Where I struggle is making sure I find time for my family, my kids, my hubby, sex, self-care.
Yeah. You guys schedule sex?
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Dang, yes, of course.
You're like
the questions are. I know the questions are coming.
Wednesday.
I've heard of this. I've heard of this, but
day.
like
We do have Wednesday night. It's hump day.
Hump day.
It's true. Casey loves the Geico commercial, and
Hump day.
No, we are huge advocates because you know why? If we don't schedule it, we don't have it because we're too busy. Sorry.
Yeah.
If we wing it, we just don't. Now listen, we tell people if you are having spontaneous sex and both of you are happy and satisfied with both quality and quantity, there's no need to schedule sex. Don't do it. But I know the stats, Ben. You want to hear them?
Yes, I do. Hold on. Let me turn up for my wife.
Yeah. That's only 10% of couples are both satisfied with quality and quantity. That's it. So for 90% of us, Casey and I included, if we leave it up to chance, one of us is in the mood, one of us is in the mood, the kids just magically are quiet. I mean, come on, guys, this isn't
Hold the
realistic.
phone. As business owners, though, something sets in. It's called decision fatigue. And at the end of the day, we're exhausted. And our largest sex organ is not our genitals, but it's our brain.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if we've given all of ourselves to our business, then we've just given our spouse the leftovers. And no one's going to have a high libido after running through payroll, looking at the bank account and going, I don't know if we're going to make it next month. Right. But if I've got something in the calendar, this is rather being reactive. I'm being proactive. Wednesday's hump day. You know what? Wednesday, I'm not going to go as hard.
Well, that might.
Okay, hold on.
Wait, did you hear it?
We're keeping that for sure.
I just heard myself.
Don't edit that one out. Oh man, actually, it wouldn't really work if you weren't that hard. So,
I'm gonna go hard with you, but not the other way around. But I just think that you just leave a little reserve in the tank.
Well, here, let me say this: when we have it on the calendar, we're a little bit nicer to each other. Let's just be honest. Come on, real talk here. We're nicer to each other. Casey will sometimes buy me flowers, or he's really great at doing the dishes that night. Hey, I'm all for it. I'm getting better treatment, and I can mentally prepare again if our brain is our largest sex organ. Sure. It gives me time as a female, because we do need a little bit more warm up, more foreplay for sure, where I'm like, okay, and I get to do this. I don't look at it as an obligation. When I hear women have a really difficult time with this one.
Yeah, they do.
It just should be organic. I'm thinking, again, if you're organic and you're happy in your sex life, then keep doing it. But if someone's complaining, or it should be more, or you're like, oh, it's been a while, just try it, and don't try it once. Try it a few times before you go that's not for us, because that's like something in business. You can't be like, well, that won't work for our company. Well, you won't know until you test it, right? Everything about business, test, A/B test, everything. Why wouldn't you do the same thing in your marriage? You have to try it. You can't knock it yet. And so we're all for it. It's awesome.
That's a valid point. That's valid for all of you questioning it. That's a valid point.
Okay.
You don't know until you try.
And Ben, after you orgasm, I have never once said, I'm so bummed that was scheduled. Never. You know what I say? Because I'm talking mainly to the females listening, because I think men can kind of wrap their mind around it. I mean, there are men also who push back on it and think it should be organic. But a lot of women will be like, wait, it just seems so forced. And I'm like, yeah, but after the orgasm, I have never once felt like that was a waste of my time. I feel like, why don't we do this more? What else is more important than this? This is freaking rad. Oh. Yeah. I don't know. That's how I feel after scheduled sex.
That's awesome. Did you guys, I forget. So when did you start?
Yes,
really...
my favorite position is doggy style. I know you forgot, but it's okay. I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to make Ben blush.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. I threw you off. I'm sorry.
Ben was teeing up a question.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's fine. Yeah.
Which actually isn't accurate, but I wanted to just get a response from you. So that's not my very favorite position.
Is sex one of the big things that test marriages as an issue? I'm just being honest. Is is that a reason why couples start separating? Or
I mean, I would say sex is typically the first thing to go. And that is because there is an equation that emotional intimacy, when you create that, which, by the way, when you're dating, first date, you're starting to ask each other great questions. The number one way to build emotional intimacy is by asking open-ended questions. And out of that place of I know you, you know me, we've created safety and safe place. That emotional intimacy then springs into physical intimacy. Now, when there's broken boundaries, trust is low in the relationship.
A lot of conflict, arguments, nitpicking.
That's where the emotional, it's not a safe place for me emotionally. Therefore, it's not as safe for me sexually as well. So we do see a lot of couples that once they go into high conflict, or, they just kind of resort to each other's corners, sex then becomes very much so a chore.
Or
It
an
is
obligation.
Not, it's not as often initiated or even, responded this like with, yeah, let's do that. That sounds great.
Or it becomes a thing where it's like, well, we do it because we know we should, but not because we actually desire to and want to. And then I think a lot of women become very resentful because then it's like they feel like they're just a piece of meat. And they're like, well, I know my husband has needs. I don't want him having an affair. So I'll give him sex. But then, like, he knows she's not enjoying it.
Oh, yeah.
You
The
know?
nonverbal during the sexual encounter is,
Yeah.
I'm tolerating you right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And I'll tell you, that is a libido killer for any dude.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
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 And then I would say there's pain in a marriage, like emotional pain. Sexual rejection pain is a totally different kind of a pain.
Yeah.
When you
Wow.
initiate over and over and over again and you do not get it, and it's not a matter of, and there's no reason why, or there's no conversation about it, and it's just this thing, it's ugly. It's really hard. It's really sad to see too.
Is it mostly, and Meygan, you might know, is it mostly women who are the ones who are rejecting,
You know,
or is it a mixture of both?
I would say 30 years ago, it was definitely more the gender specific, where like 90% of the time the men felt rejected.
Yeah.
We are seeing an increase where it's about 30-70 now. And 30% of the time, it's the female that has the higher sex drive. And 70% of the time, the man has a higher sex drive.
I might even skew that a little higher.
Higher?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we've pointed towards it with porn, the idea that, you can self-sex without having to interact with somebody. And there's multiple, it's novel, it stimulates the brain, it's a dopa hit. And I can do this without having to interact with my spouse
And be rejected.
and be rejected.
No rejection with porn.
Then I'm good to go. So
yeah, so it's kind of meeting the need for the men, and the women don't know their husband's watching porn. And then also, we would say the number one libido killer is stress. So talking about business owners, I mean, we live in a very anxious, stressful society in America. Like, we know this is a problem. It's literally like an issue that everybody's aware of. Even, we just went to a training for some therapy techniques, and they were saying that stress is like, what is it? Like, it's more the loneliness and the stress has worse side effects than diabetes.
Cigarettes and diabetes.
Worse.
What
than
is it?
cigarette-
Well, it was last year we did the loneliness survey. Oh,
Study.
not we. Somebody else did. And they noted that 50% of Americans noted that on a weekly basis, they feel acute pains of loneliness, and that the physical impact on their lives was worse than the impact of smoking or diabetes.
Yeah.
And that kind of stress level we
Whoa.
experience.
Yeah.
Now,
So then,
you
that
and I
causes-
know.
Wait, hold on. So then that causes stress, and we know that if again, going back to our brain is our largest sex organ, it's the stress, the loneliness, all of that will feed into how we're showing up in our relationship.
Wow. Nobody talks about this stuff.
We do all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think
But
too,
yes.
even in entrepreneurial circles, this is where we're
Yeah.
at.
Agreed. No one else talks
I'm
about
part
it.
of
They
EO.
really don't.
They don't.
I'm part of EO and Entrepreneurs Organization.
Yep.
And I get a chance to talk to a lot of forums and
all over the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all over the world. And
Yeah.
I would say 90% of the forums I talk to on the parking lot is always marriage issues that business owners are dealing with. They're having some stress at home, and it's leaking out into their business.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
that stress right there, you know what it does? It means that you can't lead from a place of strength. You're kind of leading from a place of panic and resentment. Like, I don't know how to fix this. My wife's always mad at me. I'm sorry, just talking to, I see a lot of men that I coach with, but my wife's always mad at me. And so therefore, when I walk out of the house, I just kind of have that chip on my shoulder.
Sure.
And that it does get taken out on teams and employees. Whereas if we led from our marriage first, then on those tough seasons like you're going through in the winter, like we're going through this year, there, when Meygan and I are on the same page, there's this deep-seated sense of contentment that, you know what, no matter what comes our way, Meygan, we are a team and we can handle business losses and business celebrations.
Hmm.
And I would have to say that success can sometimes get us off track of recognizing that our marriage needs to come first. And it's business losses that actually sometimes remind us, like, we need to get back to first things first.
Amen to that, brother. If you can make it through, like when you were talking about 2008, I was working for a bank, and our daughter was born in June, and I was gone. 2 weeks later, my job was gone. The bank sold.
Oh,
And
was
so,
Mamu, was it?
no. If that didn't happen, we would not have come together to decide to actually get out of this rut together and form a business together. Like, that was the aha moment for us. Was like, if we can make it through this, and we had debt. We did the same thing. You guys, it's funny. We had a rental property that was getting negative cash flow, and we thought it was a great idea in Portland, freaking Oregon. Like, oh, that's a great idea. So, but like what I'm saying is, like, yes, like, it's the success, you're right, can actually almost limit your focus on getting your marriage correct. 100%.
I'm sure you've heard this. Pain motivates us.
Pain does.
Right?
Mhm.
I mean, you don't see people going to the doctor going, I'm really healthy and I just want to make sure I'm healthy. You go to the doctor when the pain is so bad, you can't take it anymore. And you're like, I need help. Give me the drugs. Right?
Yeah.
I think, we go where we're winning. And I remember Casey saying this a long time ago when he was explaining men and why they work so much. and again, I can be a workaholic. So but I'm like, it's kind of more of a dude thing. Like, can you explain why? He's like, well, we go where we're winning. And so if we're winning, we're getting the attaboys at work. We're, getting the paycheck. We're building something. We're exciting. We're part of a team. Like, we're going to go where we're winning. If we come home and we're not winning, we're just going to work longer hours.
Yeah.
And that was really helpful for me. This was right when we started Marriage 365, because I want Casey to want to come home. I want Casey to be like, I can't wait to see my wife and my kids and like hang out with our dog. Like, I don't want to be like, well, I'm going to spend an extra 5 hours, because I do believe and I don't want to be gender specific, because I know there's a lot of women, they do the same thing. They're like, I'm winning at work and my career, or they're at home with the kids and they're winning as a mom and they're crushing it. And no one in the culture is going to be like, well, don't spend time with your children. Of course not.
It's crazy.
They're going to be like, good for you. You're such a good mom. And so we go into the places we're winning. But at some point there will be a breaking point. Like it sounds like for both of us, it was 2008, 2009,
Totally.
and it forces you. And so if you're listening and you haven't gone through a bad place, make this your wake up call so you don't have to go through a bad place.
Yeah.
Actually, that's interesting, Ben. Just even your response, it's funny because, even within EO, I was saying something like, we have a lot of seminars and talks about growth in business, but we don't have any talks about disappointments. Like, how do we deal with that? Because as entrepreneurs, I actually think that because we have access to capital, our ability to numb out and escape the pain is really done in an unhealthy way, whether that's drugs, alcohol,
porn.
Yep. Porn.
Just other ways. I reminded me of a quote from C.S. Lewis, and I want to read this. We can ignore even pleasure, but pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciousness, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world.
Oh, that's a good quote.
That's awesome. That is amazing. Wow. Okay. We're almost done here, but I want to be mindful of your time and I want you to promote your book. So what is this with a book? You got a book coming out now? What's going on?
Yeah. Well, going back to those tools, babe, you said this the other day and I was so impressed. You said, what is the favorite store men go to?
Home Depot.
Home Depot.
Oh, yeah, it is.
What is
Yeah,
Home
it is.
Depot? What is Home Depot full of?
Tools.
Tools. And literally, we wake up every day and we are problem solvers.
Yes.
We actually, Casey's more of the feeler and I'm more of the thinker in the marriage. So when we have a fight, I'm like, okay, how could we problem solve this? Like, I want to move past it and move on.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, let's hash it out. It might not be pretty, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to move forward. And so that's really what we do at Marriage 365. So this idea, 365 connecting questions for couples, an open-ended question every single day. It's what you did when you were dating. You still have the skill set. It's just been a little dormant. And after a long day of work or with the kids or paying the bills, looking at spreadsheets all day, it's not that we don't have a desire to want to ask these questions with our spouse. Of course, we want to grow closer and have what we had when we were dating. We all want that. We want the Hollywood fairy tale, right? But decision fatigue is a real thing. We're tired, we're exhausted. And so we created a Home Depot tool, a marriage tool for every couple out there that will give them an opportunity to connect.
Yeah, it's really a unique book. It isn't a content book where you're just reading ideas and thoughts. This is an engagement tool. Like, and we talked earlier, like the number one way to build emotional intimacy is by asking open-ended questions. Because when you do that, let me actually bring this, because this is an EO talk that I give. I think what makes a business owner super successful in the marketplace is these two things. One is curiosity. We enter into the marketplace as entrepreneurs and we go, there is a problem that my customer's having and I want to solve it. And I get curious about, let me know more about what are they trying to solve here? What are the tools needed? And how does this impact their lives? And how do I craft a marketing message around how I can do that? But then second of all is we're intentional. So we create business plans, we create team culture and KPIs, and how do I bring in coaches to help me scale my business? And those two mentalities have everything to do around these questions to ask like your spouse is, if I approached Meygan with a sense of curiosity, I would say the opposite is probably a sense of boredom. Well, nobody wants to be bored. That communicates something totally different. But if I come to her with curiosity, I'm actually showing her that I desire her. And then if I'm intentional by initiating a question. Now, the cool thing about these questions is you don't have to be some emotional genius or therapy talk or like, all powerful wizard of, relationships. All you have to do is open the book, ask the question, and the magic happens. The conversations
I love that.
Just flow out of that. And you know what? The cool thing is that, Ben, if you found us on a date night here in Orange County, California, you probably would have seen us with that book within arm's length distance, because if even Meygan and I at the end of a week or in the midweek date night, in the midst of running the business and the kids and the logistics, I can't come up with questions like this. So we use this book in our own marriage.
Do you mind if I read a couple questions to give you
Go
examples?
ahead. No,
okay.
Go do.
When making a decision, do you tend to rely on logic, emotions, or both? Which do you think should have the final say?
Ooh.
So see how that doesn't even really have a lot to do about your marriage?
Wow. That's good.
Okay, let me give you another one. This is a sex one.
Okay.
What exactly does an orgasm feel like to you?
Yeah.
Because one of the misconceptions is that men think that women feel the same thing and we don't, FYI. Sorry, spoiler alert, but we don't. So it's really good to hear your wife or your husband describe how they feel when they orgasm. Okay, here's another one. Do people often ask for help with do people often ask for your help with something specific? What is that thing and why do you think they ask you and not someone else?
These are great freaking questions.
I know. Okay, here, look at.
Well, this is great. April 28th.
At what age do you want to retire, and what type of lifestyle do you want to lead in retirement?
Now, wait, hold on. Pause for the second.
Yeah.
Think about you and Angie talking about your goals into retirement and throwing yourselves 10 years in the future and saying, here's where we want to be. think about what kind of emotional investment you are making into the future of your relationship by having that conversation. Now, I don't think most couples are thinking that,
No.
or like, I should ask this question. But
No.
the prompt provides conversations that really supercharge that sense of emotional, like, we're connected, we're a team, we're going somewhere.
And if we say, like, if you had a hard day, there's a ton of fun questions that aren't like deep and meaningful. Go to a fun question. You don't like the question, skip it. But it really, I will tell you, if you're a husband listening, your wife will be really grateful, because a lot of women will say, I want emotional intimacy. I want more. And men are like, what is that? And I always, when I coach men, I'm very pro husband. So when I coach men, I'm like, let me ask you, do you know when she says she wants emotional intimacy? Do you know what she means? And what do men say? I have no clue.
No idea.
Could you explain it to me?
Mm-hmm.
This is it. This is exactly what she's wanting. You did it when you were dating. Again, you have the skill set. So it's at Amazon, it's at Target, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, 365 connecting questions for couples. And then what's really cool is we updated and revised it, because we originally self-published this book back in 2018.
Wow, this is so cool. Tell them about what we did.
What?
We self-published back in 2018. Again, kind of business owners trying to throw some things and seeing if they stick. And we ended up selling 100,000 copies
on our own.
On our own.
What?
Yeah, out of our just on our website.
Just on our website. And so Penguin Random House, the #1 publisher in America, said, hey, we heard about your self-published book. We'd like to buy it. We'd like a piece of the profit.
Yeah.
And but we can distribute it, of course, to the masses. And so it just was released. And with that, we update it, we revise it, we added new questions. But one of the things I want to share that's really cool, there's 2 new bonus sections we never had in our self-published book. One is parenting. So there's over 50 parenting questions. Very important to talk about if you're a parent. But there's a reason why it's in the bonus, because, if you're an empty nester, or maybe you've chosen not to have children, you won't get it in the day-to-day questions. It's like
Got it.
Bonus. The second bonus section is on faith and spirituality. So for those couples who have religion, believe in God, again, or maybe you're just curious and you just want to hear about your spouse's opinion on that, that's an additional bonus section as well.
I love it. Okay. One more question to you both. Okay.
Yep.
Meygan,
go for it.
What's the one thing about Casey that still surprises you after all these years of being married?
Oh, his energy level and his passion. He has ADHD. I knew that, but I am amazed.
Me too.
Yeah, that's why I like you. Apparently I'm drawn to people that have very high energy. It amazes me how much energy he still has at his age, at 45. Yeah, surprises me often.
Yeah, I don't feel connected to the age. My biological age and my mental age are 2 different things.
Yeah, I don't look at him I don't look at him as a 45-year-old. He has the energy of like a 30-year-old. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
I have the mentality of a 16-year-old.
Well, and Ben, I have the vigor of a 20-year-old.
And he has the sexual
Hump Day
drive.
Wednesday.
I don't know what it is.
I'm a man of vigor.
All right, Casey, vice versa. What's one thing about Meygan that still surprises you after all these years?
I feel like I surprise him all the time, but I'm really curious what he's going to say.
Meygan loves to catch people off guard. So, there's things that she pops off sometimes that that surprise me. Like, because we work together all the time. So we kind of know each other's beats and kind of can anticipate them. And then Meygan will throw a left curveball just in there, and sometimes just to throw the curveball out there. And she always gets me.
Can I actually give a quick example of what has happened?
Absolutely. Yes.
No, you just said that your favorite your sex position was. And I was like, okay.
So Casey get ready for this. He has his small group men's Bible study coming over for a poker night. Okay.
Okay.
A lot of these guys are new. They've never met me. And so I'm out there and he's like, I'm so sorry. I don't know this new guy. I don't know what you do for work. And I was like, oh, I film porn. And his face, he was so uncomfortable, this poor guy. Now, obviously, when I saw his response, within 2 seconds, I was like, I'm totally joking. And he's like, oh my gosh, thank God, because I didn't know what to say. But that's the kind of person, that's my humor. That's my humor. My humor, I love to catch people off guard. And I'm glad you said that, because I feel like I do that all the time to you. But sometimes poor guy, embarrass him. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, And you can joke around. You can joke about. I've noticed this. You can joke about sexual stuff and get away with it, and it's different when a guy starts.
Oh,
to joke about sexual
100%.
stuff,
100%.
right?
True.
Then they're like, "Oh, that's a dirty man right there."
Yeah.
But
like
her, it's like,
yeah.
"Oh, that's cute."
Yeah, that is very true. I think that's a really good point. You brought up.
Every sale that we do, Megan's like, "Can we make it 69?"
Well, that is my favorite number, but it really is my favorite number.
If we're gonna have a party, it's gonna be from 6 to 9.
My kids, our teenagers, even know that it's my favorite number. It's fun. You know what? You said you and your wife laugh a lot.
Oh yeah.
I think that a lot of people are very uptight and they take themselves and others too seriously. This world is full of a lot of really hurting people. And laughter truly is the best medicine. Like you
really
have
is.
to learn to be able to laugh at yourself first. Because if you can't laugh at yourself first, it's going to be really hard to laugh at others.
Amen.
You know? Yeah.
Yes.
And
it requires a sense of humility to laugh at yourself because you're like,
I messed up. Oh my gosh, I totally said that. It was so stupid. Or, oh my gosh, I went out the other day and I had like one of those dryer sheets attached to my pants. Didn't even know. Walking around Trader Joe's. You just laugh at it. I wasn't humiliated. I was like, oh my gosh. And then no one told me about it. Oh, well, they're going to remember, oh, I saw this lady at Trader Joe's with a dryer sheet on her booty. But, it is what it is. It's funny. Like, whatever.
Oh, you guys. Well, it's been an hour. I could spend another hour and a half with you guys. You really are awesome people. And I just cannot wait. I would love to have you back on again. I would love to meet you guys in person.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll come to Wisconsin.
and have some cheese curds.
Yeah, man. They are the best. I can come to Orange County too. We can get the family.
Yeah, usually people want to come here. It's beautiful. I mean, right now it's 75 and sunny and just beautiful and gorgeous. And it's December.
It's actually 69 degrees.
Oh, is it? Did you check?
Yep.
That's perfect.
It's appropriate.
I'll see. He surprises me too.
So why don't you guys just plug yourself?
Yeah. So
Whoa, we don't.
Wow.
We do not use butt plugs
Wow.
or plug ourselves anywhere. Just to clarify.
How about you plug
Wait,
yourself?
listen, Ben.
Wow.
Ben, when you are talking about marriage,
He lost it.
oh, poor Ben. When you're talking about marriage and sex, let me just tell you, our staff, our sweet, amazing staff,
Yeah.
they're proofreading a blog about oral sex. I mean, you have to just be able to get really comfortable really fast about sex and intimacy and anatomy. So
Oh, it'd have to. Yeah.
you just have to be. It's part of
sex
it.
Educators. We're sex educators. I mean,
Yeah.
we're sexticators.
Sexticators.
Yeah. Anyways, well, hey, listen. The probably most active community you can find us is at Marriage365 on all the socials. But if you go to marriage365.com, you can find out about our book. We do retreats. We do intensives for couples in crisis. But probably our number one resource is our mobile app, which you can find on the Apple Store, Google Play Store, Marriage365.
I forgot you guys have an app too. I forgot to ask that question.
That's all right. Well, you're just going to have us back again. But yeah, our app's
All
actually
right.
our number one resource we have because,
Yeah.
of course, business owner, it works with your time frame, not
Yeah.
ours. And that's what makes it really convenient. And you and your spouse can do it alone, together. It's pretty rad.
Oh, I love it. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Casey,
You're too,
Megan.
Ben.
I know. Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
We are
Thank
like
you so
blood
much.
brothers now.
Yeah, for real. It's awesome. Except you got the better hair.
Oh,
Oh.
do you not have hair?
Nah.
Oh, I couldn't tell.
That's because I wear a hat.
Yeah.